remember Snow from the asylum I used to work at. I can't remember the ID they gave her, seeing as she wasn't directly one of my patients, but I do remember the story behind her. When she was 4, everyone in her home abused her in some way. Her parents, her sister, even her twin. They were supposed to be a very, very well-off Christian family, and they did a lot for their community. In fact, they did so much that nobody would have even questioned the family about anything. No one even knew that they had a dark secret. They often blamed their 4-year-old daughter for sins, even though she was always locked in the basement and had little to no contact with them. Every time the door opened, she would shake with fear, knowing that something was going to happen and that something was never good for her. Whenever the door opened, one of the family members would speak, "Dear Father, I committed a sin against you." Then they would beat Snow while yelling out one of the 7 deadly sins. One day they made the poor girl snap. Or rather, her father did. He walked down the stairs, obviously drunk, and said one of the sins that she had never heard from their lips before. Lust. He pulled out rope, tied her to the dirty bed in the middle of the floor. He took off his belt and started to beat her with it, reopening infected cuts that would ooze out blood and green-white pus. Ribs were almost perfectly visible from under her once white but now black shirt. She could only whimper in pain, for she feared that if a single tear left her eye, it would only get worse, for it usually did. The father eventually got tired of using his belt and ripped off her tattered clothes, then removed his own. He brutally raped her, his own daughter. Her body was now covered in all kinds of new marks. She cried the whole time, but he just hit her more and more. Snow started to cry blood, but her dad only laughed. When he was done, he covered her whole body with a thick blanket, then poured ice-cold water on her. After that, he simply left his own daughter there in pain, one that she had never experienced before. Her sanity was slipping. There wasn't much of it left to begin with. But she didn't even realize what was happening. All she knew is that she wanted to smile. Thoughts, tons of them, crossed her mind, but one stuck with her. What if she shared her own sins with them? That's what a family does, correct? Within seconds, a new persona was created within her. Later that night, she painstakingly left the basement for a bath, one that she was only allowed twice a year. The rest of the family ignored her, as they happily talked and watched TV. Luckily for her, the kitchen was near the bathroom and out of their line of vision. She grabbed the sharpest knife she could, hid it behind her back, and walked towards the living room. There was no plan within her mind for what she was going to do after this, but she remembered in one of the cabinets near the living room, they hid a gun. She slowly opened the cabinet, quietly as she could. She saw that it was already loaded, which just made her smile increase. The fact that they would know what a bullet felt like made her want to laugh, but she couldn't. She couldn't give away the fact that she was there. Not yet, anyway. With no idea on how to actually hold the gun, and not aware of the kick one would have, she aimed the pistol and fired. To her surprise, it threw her back on the floor, and she swore a rib cracked. But she didn't care. She ignored the pain because a new happiness overflowed her when she saw it actually hit someone. She had shot her own twin in the throat. She started to laugh. It started off as a giggle and slowly increased. It didn't take long for them to realize she was there. Her dad stood up and started lashing out and beating her, but she made no sound and shoved the knife hidden into his stomach. While he was in shock, she just smiled happily and looked up at him. "Daddy, you have too much rage." With that, she removed the knife and stabbed him in the chest several times as he fell to the floor. While this happened, her sister called the cops and her mom got the knife from her mom retrieved the sharpest knife that she could find in the kitchen. "Mom is like a sloth, and Sissy envies a lot." Ignoring her sister, Snow tossed a fire poker at her mom. She knew it was sharp because she knew the pain from it. Due to her poor aim and weak bones, it almost hit her womb, but instead it got lodged into a leg. As her victim tried to remove the fire poker, she turned to her cowering sister, who was in too much shock and denial to try to do anything. Snow spoke once more. "Eyes let us envy." After that, she claimed she doesn't know what happened. His sister was found with no breath, eyes, and tongue. Her death was slow and painful. Her twin, Ian, died at the hospital due to infection from being shot in the neck. The dad died from multiple stab wounds. Lastly, her mother had no lips and was cut open, exposing her insides. When the police arrived, she was coated head and toe from blood. She was smiling and laughing as if she was for once in her life a normal, a happy child. It didn't take long for a court of any kind to decide that she was completely mentally unstable, and then they sent her to the asylum. I'll leave the name unknown, for I just can't say. It's best if it's not known. Anyway, here, or there, I should say, she only got worse. But I guess that's expected. Or is it not? I'm not sure anymore. Around the age of 8, some dumbass worker told some of the kids about something called Creepypasta or whatever the hell it was. I swear they were just trying to encourage these kids. Snow was only interested in one story. Something about a slender person, tall man, something. I honestly can't remember. For some reason, she decided that her name would change. She would no longer be considered anything. She refused to go by the ID number. She refused to be called by her last name. It was odd. She always responded to those things and used to always insist being called them. But I guess things change. She wanted to be called Snow Namrednels instead of just Snow. She convinced herself that whoever this character was family. After that, she started having more breakdowns than usual. The medication just wasn't working like it used to. Whenever somebody did make sure she actually took it, for we found out that she would sometimes slip it to someone else, it started losing effect. No one was exactly sure why. She was almost getting an adult dose at one point, but still nothing. We didn't know what to do. I guess you could say in a way we eventually gave up. For the most part, at least. At one point, she almost killed another patient. She later put a white rose staining somebody's blood in their own room with a note saying, "Kiss the bloody petals for luck, love." Near midnight, screams were heard. She was found sewing a piece of skin onto her own exposed muscle. The skin came from the patient from earlier, but he looked like death. We all thought he was dead. Recently, she escaped, and this is my only warning. She has no sense of killing her victims. Each time is slightly different. But she always leaves the same bloody flower and the same note. Sometimes she'll take a piece of skin from her victim, and I'm guessing she does what she did with the boy before. So it's into her own. Be careful of what you do. She kills based on the 7 deadly sins and who she thinks shows the most. In the end, we are all a victim of hers. She's just waiting for the right moment to attack. Good luck.